Today on Between the Lines, Woody Woodburn, who learned about true success through his longtime friendship with the great coach, John Wooden. Welcome, I'm Barry Kibrick. Woody is an award-winning columnist whose deep relationship with Coach Wooden taught him the life lessons that he shares with us today from his book, Wooden and Me.
I'm a writer today because I was a reader when I was 11 years old. And it was...
You do not need to prove your state of happiness to anybody.
Most of these speeches were as much as a month in preparation.
Characters, the heroes in this book, are seekers of truth in a story that involves a lot of
You
corruption.
don't get a chance to really talk about what's real. And it's the perfect thing to do.
Woody, it's been a long time since we met when I had Dallas, to this day still the youngest person ever on Between the Lines, your daughter, and at that time, Coach John Wooden was also a guest. So talk about signs and coincidences as we were doing before. And now you wrote this book about your love and lifelong friendship with John Wooden. Welcome to the show.
Well, it's such a gift to be back, Barry, and a privilege. Thanks for having me again. And like you said, when Dallas was here, we didn't know who else you were taping that day, and we come into the green room, and Coach just lights up and he greets Dallas like they're long-lost friends, and it was just wonderful. The oldest guest you've ever had and the youngest guest.
That's right, at the same time,
in the
same room.
And then also Dallas was so nervous, he was only 18 at the time, and so Coach, as we'll talk about later, he always has these life lessons and putting people at ease. He asked Dallas, will you trade one of your books, autograph it for me, and I'll give you one of mine? And it made her feel so big and important. And she says later, it put her at ease to be on your show.
Well, and you know, and then even later, you write a book with the Bryant brothers' dad, Wayne Bryant, and you're back on the show for it because it was so powerful as well. So it's a full, we're now going full circle back to the coach.
We are, yes.
Well, let's begin with how this happened. You decide, first of all, you're obviously a very tall man, you're a basketball player, you're going to the John Wooden basketball camp, and right off the bat, you start to learn the lessons from how to put even on your socks.
Exactly. I was 12 years old, so I actually wasn't very tall then, but Coach Wooden, we watched him all his games in their NC2A dynasty at the Bruins, so going there was just going to the mountaintop, hearing the gospel from the greatest coach ever. So I just absorbed everything, and I came back from that camp with the Pyramid of Success, and I put it on my wall, and it's been on my wall everywhere I've been since then. And I just really absorbed his lessons then. And then 12 years later, I'm a sports writer, a rookie sports writer. I go cover him doing an event, and he 300 businessmen. Afterwards, he meets all of them, signs autographs. I wait in the wings, and finally my turn. I say, Coach, do you have 10 minutes to give me for an interview? And he didn't have 10 minutes to give me, Barry. Coach gave me an hour. And that's Coach for you. He had a 4-hour drive back to Encino, but he gave me a full hour. I sent him a copy of my column. A few days later, I get a letter in the mail, return address John Wooden. I open it up, a nice letter thanking me, and then at the bottom he says, if you're ever in town, give me a call, we'll go on a morning walk together.
Well, and that's where a lot of this wisdom develops. It's these walks that you take with the coach. So you're getting, even though so many of his quotes are well known, you're getting some that are very privy that you sort of get a chance to really relate to on your own, in your own life, and that's what happens. You become sort of absorbed by his wisdom, or I should say, his wisdom is absorbed within you.
Exactly. Like the very first walk we take, he always went 4.5 miles, and the first 2 miles I'm just peppering him with basketball questions. But from then on, he turned the tables on me. He's asking me about my life, and he's sharing his lessons with me. One thing that happened on that first walk, I told him that my wife was pregnant. And he says, well, when's the due date? And I go, August 8th. And Coach just stopped in his tracks, and just this emotion flooded over him. That was his and Nell's anniversary. So I think just from the very beginning there, we had this fate, as you and I were talking before a camera came on, this connection. You know, August 8th, he was married to Nell for 53 years, and she just passed away 2 years before that. So we had this connection, and then from there, just more visits and letters back and forth. And not just me, he became a teacher for my kids and my wife, but my kids grew up, instead of getting notes in their lunch boxes, have a great day, I'd say, make today a masterpiece. Be quick but don't hurry. Maybe they had a spelling test that day. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so they just absorbed these too, and it became a part of who they are too.
Well, we're going to share some of them, but I want to start with Nell because you brought her up, and the love. John, Coach Wooden said always, if there's one most important word, it is love, and he had that with his wife. We're blessed to have that same type of relationship with our wives, and I think you said it. It's sort of like what love is. You describe it almost as an ongoing, beautiful, in-depth conversation.
Yeah, Coach, Nell was the only girl he ever dated, ever kissed, married almost 53 years, and when she passed away 2 years before I met him, he actually became a little bit reclusive, and so he was finally coming back out. But a lot of people may not know this. On the date of her death, each month he wrote her a letter and would put it on her pillow. And so as my relationship, I knew him for 23 years, every time I'd come visit him, the stack of letters on the pillow would be a little bit taller. That's really love right there.
Yeah, and the coach had a way of letting you feel that love, even not just from Nell, but he really loved the people, whoever it was he came in touch with. He's one of those that when he's in the room, there is not a halo, but there's an aura around him.
I like to say there's some people, when you go into a room with them, you want to be a better person. With Coach, you go into a room, and after you leave, you still want to be a better person. And you talk about love and Nell. So 3-4 years after I met Coach, my mom passed away unexpectedly, and she was my dad's high school sweetheart, college sweetheart. And so Coach not only wrote me a letter of sympathy, talk about making friendship fine art, without me knowing it, he wrote this long letter to my dad with some pamphlets and telling him how he got through Nell's loss. And my dad carries that in his briefcase to this day. It was the most meaningful letter he got after my mom passed away.
Well, you can tell just by the way his former players always talk of him. And as I said, I'm blessed that he was on my show. I had him, and probably at one of the last conversations he had. It was just a beautiful moment in time. I want to begin with words that I'm going to use throughout the show because they carry such an inward, deep, soulful meaning to me, and I want to play off of them right off the bat, okay? Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable. And I remember in the book you saying you never used even the word win or winning to your championship teams because that was not your goal. It was to get these players as individuals to fulfill the best that they can be and in turn make the team the best that it can be.
I wanted to coin my own definition of success way back when I entered the teaching profession back in 1934. Now, Mr. Webster more or less defines it as the accumulation of material possessions or the attainment of a position of power, prestige, or something of that sort. Now, I think those are worthy accomplishments, but I don't think they necessarily indicate success, and so I want to come up with my own. I was raised on a small farm in southern Indiana. My father tried to teach me and my brothers, you should never try to be better than someone else. He said, learn from others because you'll never know a thing you don't learn from others, and never cease trying to be the best you can be. That's in your power. And I recalled that years later when I was trying to coin my own definition of success, and I also ran across a little verse that said, at God's footstool to confess, a poor soul knelt and bowed his head. I failed, he cried. The master said, thou didst thy best. That is success. And from that, my definition of success came. And I think it's like character and reputation. Character is what you are, and you're the only one that knows that. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. Your reputation is what you're perceived to be. And I think that you're the only one that knows whether you make the effort to do the best of what you're capable.
You said these words before that the coach said, and I purposely wrote them down because I wanted the explanation behind it. But it was, be quick, don't hurry. You said you put that in your little notes if your kid. Explain that, because that's a very tricky thing if you tell a person to be quick, but don't hurry.
Sure, because hurrying means you're in a rush. So basketball-wise, that was one of his things. So you don't want to rush through your moves because you're going to make a mistake, but you want to be quick because he believed quickness was even the best trait you could have in basketball or any sport. Quickness, quickness, quickness. But it's not just basketball it relates to. Like, I took it to heed for in the press box. Be quick on deadline, but don't hurry. You're going to make typos. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to say what you want to say. And relating also with that was failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Before I even get to the press box, I got to prepare so that I can be quick on deadline. I don't have to look things up. I know what I want to know. And so his little sayings, I call them Woodenisms, but there's so much wisdom in them in real life.
Oh, God, we're going to hit so many of them, but I want to pick out a few things that I don't think people remember or even know. Coach Wooden played professional basketball and to this day has the record for the most free throws as a professional in a row. Now, this is pre-NBA.
Yes, it is pre-NBA.
And by the way, in the NBA, no one has yet beat his record.
I believe it's 134.
Yes.
In a row. And when he was coaching at UCLA, he would actually, before practice, after practice, he would get into free throw contests with his players. And from what I hear from his former players, he was really hard to beat, even when he was in his 60s.
Now, he said, though, I said the word love was the important word, but he said there were two other very important words, thanks and balance.
Yeah. He said love and balance were the two most important words in the English language, because in basketball, you have to be on balance to make your moves and to be at your best. And you can't just be all offense, you have to have defense, balance, balance. In real life, not just all work and no play. And he would put these lessons to use, like he wrote Dallas and Greg, my son and daughter, a letter saying before the school year one year, work hard and study hard in school this year, but save time for play as well. Balance.
Let's go into some of those Woodisms and Woodyisms. Most worthwhile things come wrapped in adversity.
True, he said, if you set a goal and it's too easy to achieve, then you won't get any value out of attaining it anyway. So set your goals high and work for it. And good things take time, and they should take time, usually a lot of time.
I firmly believe if you simply do just this, your life is better. If we magnified blessings as much as we magnify disappointments, we would all be much happier.
And he saw the blessings in everything. When the day before he got married to Nell, he went to the bank to get their savings for their honeymoon. He had $909.05. He knew the exact pennies out. He lost all of it. The bank had a run and he had no money. He lost everything the day before he got married. And you know what his reaction was? Nell and I are young, that we can recover from this. He felt bad for the older people that lost their money. I mean, that is just amazing, and that is Coach, seeing the bright side in everything.
But more than just the bright side, because that sometimes almost makes him seem Pollyannish. He was never Pollyannish.
No.
He saw the bright side because he knew the bright side was there. There's a very big difference. He was certain, and another quote that proves it, don't let yesterday take up too much of today.
That's
so
right.
he was able to let go of that probably at an instant that he lost that money and boom, proceed into what's, as any great athlete, by the way, must do, because you're going to miss more than you're going to hit. If you can't say that, big deal, I struck out, big deal, I threw an interception, big deal, I missed that putt. If you can't let go of that immediately, you're going to mess up on that next shot.
And that's why his definition of success is giving your best effort to do the best you're capable of. He told me, and he's told other people, he never once used the word win with his teams. He told them, I prepared you for the game, go out there and give your best effort, and then he would add with a smile, and I think when you come off the court, if you look up the scoreboard, you'll be pleased with the result. But he knew that by just focusing on doing what you have to do, the bigger things will take care of themselves. Small things add up to big things, he liked to say.
He says these words, and again, because I think we face so many of them in our lives, if we face them this way, we will again live a better life. He says, some of my greatest pleasures have come from finding ways to overcome obstacles. So when most people run into an obstacle, the first thing they do is, the immediate reaction is almost frustration. His immediate reaction is pleasure.
Yeah.
Am I right? It's
Yeah.
a bizarre thought, but yet, proof is in the pudding. You do not become the greatest coach in the history of mankind if you don't have this kind of belief system.
And if you achieve something that's easy, then like he said, it's not that worthwhile. So you're right, he embraced obstacles. And his sayings, sometimes they seem so simple, but even like things turn out best for those who make the best of the way turn out, that gave me such personal inner strength, as I write in the book, that I was rear-ended by a drunk driver after covering the Super Bowl. I had to have neck surgery, and I had to leave sports because of that. Now I'm doing other things in writing, and but I made things turn out the best. So by leaving the press box, I was home to see every track meet and basketball games my kids had in high school and at college, and so things turned out best. I wouldn't have left the newspaper business when I did, except I was forced to, and yet now look at the newspaper business, I'm really glad that I've moved on when I did, so things turned out best because I made the best of the way they turned out.
You know, when, as I said, we met when Coach Wooden was on the show, and the book was, I think it
Leadership,
was
right?
Leadership, his leadership book. And I'll never forget this part, because you mentioned the pyramid of success. And in it, he originally had at one of the cornerstones the word willingness. And he realized that for some reason that wasn't the ideal of success. It was, and he took it out. He took out the word willingness and he replaced it with enthusiasm. He really believed that an eagerness and enthusiasm was really going to make the difference. Now, more I think about it though, and see how difficult it is to really be enthusiastic, I almost thought maybe the block next to it should have been the willingness to be enthusiastic, because it's hard for people to grasp that. But as he says, that's the cornerstone of success. You must be eager and enthusiastic, not just willing.
Yeah, as in the block for team spirit, because you have to sacrifice yourself for the team, and a willingness to do it, well, you actually have to have an eagerness. So to me, he put into things when, if you ask a child to take out the garbage, or your wife asks you to take the garbage out to the curb, or you ask a friend to help you move, if they're willing to help you, you almost feel like they're doing you this big favor. But if they're eager, I remember when I was doing this book, Greg helped me with some things. He was upstairs, and I asked him, Greg, when you get a chance in the next couple hours when you're done with what you're doing, can you help me with this here? And he goes, Pops, I'll help you right now. Let's do it. And that was that right there. Eagerness to help me, not a willingness.
Oh, just that is so beautiful, because, and in fact, one of his lines is, make friendship a fine art. That's part of what a great friend does.
Yes.
He does so, or she does so, not because, well, you're my friend, I have to do
Right.
it. It's because I want to do it.
Exactly.
I want to do it because it's you. I love you and I want to help you.
And he just made these life lessons all the time, like make friendship a fine art. That's one of my favorites on his 7-point creed. And one day I was leaving after a visit, and he goes, wait a second, I got something for you. And he goes into his study and comes back with a book, one of his books that just come out. And I go, Coach, thanks so much, but you're always giving me something. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop at Barnes & Noble on the way home and buy this. And he goes, he had a great sense of humor, Barry, and he just kind of smiles. He goes, well, Woody, I can't really very well give it to somebody else because I've already signed it to you.
Oh.
And so it's kind of a funny story, but then Coach, he always had a lesson, Barry, and he goes, I'll tell you what, Woody, after he thought for a second, I want you to buy a book on the way home anyway and give it to a friend for no reason. Make friendship a fine art, and that's a lesson, and that's in the book. And I've been so touched. I've had so many people write me going that they bought an extra copy to give a book. One man wrote and said he bought 80 copies of Wooden and Me to give to everybody he knew in a circle. Make friendship a fine art. So I really wanted this book to pass along Coach's lessons because I felt an obligation. I had such a gift to know him, not being a player, so I think it resonates with people that you didn't have to be a player to learn these lessons from him. And so to have those lessons actually hear that they're being resonated makes me so happy.
And each lesson could almost be used as a mantra. If you wake up every morning, just take one lesson each day and just repeat it over. It soothes the soul. That's what I found about Coach. There are lots of words of wisdom, and they are wise, there's no doubt. But the coaches not only are wise, but they soothe and comfort.
Yeah, he was just such a he was so authentic, and he was just so real, and like you say, so reassuring. He's like this Zen master on the top of a mountain, except he was like your grandfather. You know, like you weren't in awe of him when you were with him. You felt so at ease. He's just a special, unique person.
Even, as I said, he had that aura even when he was here. Here's one that I thought was of particular interest, because people, well, they kind of ask me this after some of my shows, and it's a very difficult one for me to deal with until I read this. If you stay intent, and here's what I put in big letters, and your ability warrants it, you will eventually reach the top of the mountain. So it's not just persistence, it's not just that ability to persevere. Your ability must warrant it. That puts a lot more reality and stock into everyone just thinking, because I often just say, you know, the importance truly is perseverance, and it is. The coach would have known it, but the ability must warrant it. And he had that Midwestern smarts,
Sure.
as you say, to know that, like the farm boy, hey, if that cow's not, he can walk those pastures as long as he wants if it's not the right cow, you know. So the ability must warrant it.
This is just another example of you, Barry, just seeing the big picture, or the little picture, if you want to say. That's really why he developed the Pyramid of Success, because he was an English teacher before he became a coach, and he would have students, and especially their parents, like, why didn't Johnny get an A when he only got a C? And maybe for that student, a C was as good as he could do. That was better than another student that got a B that should have been getting an A. And so that's why his definition of success is to do the best of which you are capable of doing. And so he spent 13 years developing that pyramid. Good things take time, usually a lot of time, because he was always tinkering with it until he had it just the way he thought it would be. But those blocks, if you follow them, they'll get you to your own summit, maybe not the NBA summit or the Pulitzer Prize summit, but whatever the summit is for your abilities, as you just really pointed out.
Well, and now I'll go back to the perseverance, because without that, so in other words, you need the ability and then you must persevere. And he says, persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So those that have the ability must persevere, because that is what will save us as a species.
Well, yeah, we need everybody living up to the potential. And I think, to me, it boils down to, you talk about his mantras. My very favorite one of his is, make each day your masterpiece. Because I believe, and that's why it's in part of the title, that if you focus on today, make each day your masterpiece, you string those days together, you're going to have a masterpiece month, and a masterpiece year, and a masterpiece life. Don't let yesterday take up too much of today. Don't let tomorrow take up too much today. Just make each day your masterpiece. It encompasses all of his teachings, I think, in one small one.
And it truly does that, and that's how we'll end our show, but not yet, because there's one more first. The man who is afraid to risk failure seldom has to face success. So you really must be prepared and willing to fail if you really are going to succeed.
Coach felt that the team that made the most mistakes in a game would actually win, because they're risking to do great things. So he wasn't that concerned with turnovers and errors, as long as they were kind of like good turnovers and errors, that you were trying to do the right thing. But a team that plays it too safe, and it goes into life too, if you play it too safe in life, as they say, fortune favors the bold. I think Coach kind of believed that.
Well, we've been talking about Coach's words, but our time is up, and I'm going to end with yours, Woody. The connections we forge and the joy we kindle helps us heal. Thank you, Woody, for sharing those words of wisdom by Coach Wooden, because they do make us heal. It's a pleasure, Woody.
Oh, thank you. It's been a gift to be on here again and a privilege, and thanks so much, Barry.
My pleasure, and thank you guys for joining us. Now, before Woody leaves, I'd like to leave you with Woody's words from Wooden and me one more time. Whatever your goal is, if you take it one step at a time, if you concentrate on the next 100 meters of the hiking trail, writing the next page of a term paper or novel, if you focus, as the coach said, on making each day your masterpiece, specifically making today your masterpiece, well, then it becomes doable, and it also becomes more enjoyable. I'm Barry Kibrick. Between each of those small steps, find the joy and make each day your masterpiece. Thank you so much, Woody.
Thank you. My pleasure. You're the
My
best.
pleasure.
Closed captioning for Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is made possible by your generous contributions to KLCS Education Foundation. Thank you for your support. To connect with Barry, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Barry Kibrick. And to contact Barry directly, watch past episodes of Between the Lines, and read his blog, visit us at barrykibrick.com.